guess who's coming to Kansas City? Via Focus on USA, HotTalkRadio.com, YouTube, Facebook, Smart and iPhone for starters. And a special broadcast Saturday, August the 28th, 3 to 4:30 p.m. Central Standard Time, celebrating the United Minority Media Association, Inc., UMA's 47th anniversary. Motto, media is global. Join us wherever you find Ferguson USA, HotTalkRadio.com. Good afternoon, and hello to all the guests who are coming to Kansas City. Our listeners, this is MC Richardson, your moderator and your host. Once upon a time, black people in Kansas City, Missouri, could not live past south of 28th Street except on 54th Street, east of Prospect. The Shelby family, the Felton Davis family, and Mrs. Gertrude Keefe lived there. A lot of people didn't know that. And today, it's a crowded day. We have the Eggs and Enlightenment. They have their award ceremony, and we'll probably have Mr. Archie Welch and Mr. Archie Williams and Ron McMillan, both are members of the Eggs and Enlightenment. I know they'll comment, but are also in our remembrance and dialogue is dedicated to the memory of Leroy Saxon Page, Carol Cole, and Mr. Benny Shelby, who made quite a mark in Kansas City. His funeral was yesterday, and he was one of the people that was the president of the Southeast Bar Association, to later be named the Southeast Bar and Restaurant Association, which John Shaw, Ron Reynolds, and myself were the founding members to get the 3 a.m. closing, which we had Mr. Bud Buchanan, the Hall of Famer. He was one of the spokespersons. We did a lot for this out at Jimmy Woodley's nightclub out on 63rd Street, and we went all over the city to get that. But on the same token, today it's a crowded situation and a welcome situation. We have what is the name of it? It's the school and all school cookout that's going on now in Spring Valley Park, and that started at 10 and it'll go to 10 p.m. tonight. Also, Eggs of Enlightenment had an award ceremony, and also Carol Cole, the bridge on 19th and Vine is being named and placing her name, and the Black Archives of Mid-America, they had a ceremony, but this started at 11 o'clock today, and this goes on. So now we got some guests who can tell us, and our topic for the day is, and this is before slavery and the Civil War, the 1619 Project. So who do we have online? We have invited Ron McMillan and Archie Williams. And also our host, almost forgot him, is Mr. Nimrod Chapel. So Nimrod, are you online with us?
I am. Happy to be with you on this beautiful Saturday.
We thought you had skipped town and we didn't know where you were.
Sometimes I don't either.
Okay, now the two guests, who do we have? Mr. Brother Ron McMillan out here in Spring Valley Park with the OGs. Oh, they got a little something on the, you know how they like to barbecue in Kansas City, and they got a little crowd down here. I had just left the Gym Theater, which gave a fabulous salute to Sister Carol Cole, and they had a lot of people out there that had people come up and talk about their experiences with Carol Cole and some of her notorious capers.
Well, that is correct. I remember
you don't know Carol until you had a fight with her. I need to fight with her right now. I miss her so much. She was such a dynamic personality. And so her daughter Ailey and her sons and stuff, they put up a nice little show. Terry Rowley hosted it, and we had everybody speak on it and remember how powerful she was. Before that, we left down at the Scientology church. We had honoring Sonny Elvis Gibson, my papa, and we recognized the work that he's been doing. Another crazy person, and you got to be crazy to live in Kansas City and get this thing done. And Sonny was one of those people that did AIDS and Enlightenment work for 17 years down at that McDonald's, and his personality brought all kinds of folks together. And then we had Dr. Williams from the Black Archives was our guest speaker down at Sonny's. They were able to talk about some historic stuff. Today being August 21st, I'd like to celebrate all of y'all because August 20th, 1619, that's when the first 20 of y'all got here and became enslaved. And you know, welcome to the shores of Britain. I was up there in Virginia. And 20 of y'all got sold into servitude. And that's what the whole thing about Nicole Hannah Johnson. I love that woman. She, in her research, and she's diligent. People want to challenge her, but she's a Pulitzer. She's a Genius Award winner. Her research is dynamic. And when she walked into the Times office, the New York paper in New York, and presented 1619, they gave her the whole paper. And people don't believe it. But they published the whole year around 1619 in the Truth. And it really, they like to talk about the dynamic of the black this, and it ain't nothing but bringing out the truth of what really happened. And we got here 1619, 1776, this pageantry for white folk. We were still not free. So we don't accept, and we look at her research and what went on, and I hope people will go to YouTube or on the internet and really look at her research and who she is, and the 1619 thing that we need to get behind, so that the truth about how America, who is America about, and we're going to find it's more about slavery than you want to recognize, and we have shaped the character of this nation, and now it has to live up to and give justice to those that are enslaved. So we got a great opening because Marcus Garvey's birthday was just, all this is coming together on the 17th. So we got the Garvey, then we got this whole 1619 thing, and we should have some fabulous discussions and stop white folks from telling the big lie. I'm sorry. The big lie has to die so that America can live. Because it's supposed to be about liberty and justice, but you had slaves, and we need to write about it. The documentation is there, and we need to recognize it. It happened, we can't change it. But as we move forward, the truth, what Grandma used to say, the truth shall set you free. And we're getting that because we have research now that we can document things now that we never could have documented years ago. And I'm so proud that a lot of our PhDs, a lot of people going to the largest and biggest universities, Yale and Harvard, and digging up some stuff, digging up a few things, if you really would research Harvard and how many slaves they had and the things that went on. So
We're into a movement that will bring us closer to the truth and stop living. You can see how they're lying. You saw that January 6th. You can see the hypocrisy. And we as a people have to stand up for the truth, because the truth will lead us where we should be as children of God.
We also should have Mr. One of your partners, Mr. Archie Williams. Has he joined us yet?
Oh, yeah. Archie on the line? Oh, yeah.
I'm listening to my brother.
That's the confessor. I love Archie. I love that brother. I like to speak behind him. Y'all let me get on before the professor?
Well, on the same token, sir, I've left word for you that you guys have the whole show. And also our co-host for today is Mr. Nimrod Chappell, and he also is head of the Jefferson City NAACP, and he has his own law firm. So you're supposed to set this tone, Mr. Chappell, so we'll let you in now. And I told Mr. Ron McMillan we'll give you the first 5 minutes, but he said, So let's make this a good show. And also, people, you're on YouTube, you're also on Facebook, and the Smart and iPhone, and it's another media outlet that we're on. But well, you go ahead and start, Mr. Attorney Chappell, and we'll bring Mr. Archie Williams and Mr. Ron McMillan. You guys will have a whole shot, and people coming in, they can go on YouTube, they can go on Facebook. Guess who's coming to Kansas City? You know what I'm saying? All these are being archived in the Ferguson USA on the web page, and also podcasts and archives. And so take it away, Attorney Chappell.
Yeah, well, thank you so much. Nimrod Chappell here. Real pleasure to be with you, and I can already tell I'm in good company. This is going to be a great show. You know, a lot of people don't recognize the history that we actually have, and there are misconceptions. You know, sometimes people think that just because we're talking about history that we're being anti-somebody or somebody else, right? Here we're talking about 1619, where folks left from Point Comfort, if I recall. Isn't that an interesting name for slavery's hateful nature to begin on this continent? Can each of you give me your take, your perspective, what you think the relevance of the 1619 project will be in 20 years when our kids and grandkids are looking back at this historical moment?
Mr. Archie Williams, will you take the lead in that?
Yeah. Wow. Now, that's very, very powerful. You know, thank you, number one, for inviting me on the show and allowing me to share some of my thoughts on this very, very significant topic. You hit the nail right on the head right there, because my firm belief is what it lies in the old saying that they used to greet each other with in many cultures, and our ancestral home Africa, they would greet each other by saying, "How are the children?" And the response had better be, "The children are fine." It's like we say, "Hey man, what's up? How you doing?" Well, the significance of that greeting is that what we do today is not for us right now. It's what we're building for our children in the future. So when answering your question about the significance of the 1619 project to our children some 20 years from now, it better be, and that's if we're doing our jobs correctly right now today, it better be us teaching them that they are not who we have been made to be up to this point, as far as being Negroes, colors, just descendants of slaves. It better be us telling the full story about how we built this nation, even through slavery, but with a clear understanding of what that slavery undertook. And the 1619 project is, and I'll use the phrase that Dr. Nicole Hannah Jones States is that it aims to reframe the country's history by placing the consequences of slavery and the contributions of Black Americans at the very center of the United States national narrative. Now, we think about that for a minute, that we look at the consequences of the slavery that took place in colonial British colonies that fed into the development of the United States of America, and recognize the contributions that our ancestors made, and place it at the very center of the United States national narrative. Now, reshaping the narrative is what's going to determine what our children know 20 years from now. And with the 1619 project, it looks very promising if we do our jobs today, that they will have a better understanding about our role in this country. So, sum it up, what we're doing today is going to determine how well our children and grandchildren will participate in this experiment of democracy and make this country live up to the creed by which it was founded on, of every man being created equal and endowed by our Creator.
Okay, on that note, if you just happen to tune in on the internet, Ferguson USA Hot Talk Radio, and we have a special show. The topic is Before Slavery and the Civil War, the 1619 Project. And this, Scott Owens, if some people wanted to go to the YouTube or go to Facebook, how might they interject some information via those two areas?
You just find the live stream on Ferguson USA Hot Talk Radio page on Facebook, and I'm monitoring both Facebook and YouTube. You could do the same thing on either.
Put up 1619. 1619. It comes up. And Nicole Hannah Johnson has made numerous appearances, and they try to chop her down, but her research and what woke her up was Van Sertima. They came before Columbus, and she details and lays out the history that people don't want to reckon with. But that history and the history of Africans and Moors and how we traveled and who we were and what we did, she dug into that. And changing the narrative, they got some technical name that they use for 1619, but it ain't nothing but telling the truth, resetting the narrative so that the truth can be known and that our children don't have to feel all bad about the history that was there, because we were the ones who were captured and enslaved, and we are the ones who know that we have had a mission to glorify God Almighty. When you take what happened to us and take us from bottom pits of slavery to the presidency of the whole United States, something's going on there. And you better recognize it.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And it seems like right now there is a whole misconception about what history is, because that is the 1619 Project. It actually tells the history of a people who have been oppressed and erased from history a long time before anybody ever thought about getting canceled. And conflating that with critical race theory. Can anybody lay in for us on the distinction between what is critical race theory and what the 1619 Project really is?
Oh, I'm so glad you answered that question. Go ahead, Professor. There's a whole movement going on by some European Americans to cloud the issue. Now, critical race theory examines social, cultural, and legal issues as they relate to race and racism. It is an academic movement of civil rights scholars and activists who seek to critically examine the law. and out again, examine the law as it intersects with issues of race and to challenge mainstream liberal approaches to racial justice. Now, that's really significant in that the 1619 Project talks about specifics in the development of slavery beginning in 1619, but the critical race theory really took off after 1970 with Dr. Derek Dale, who was a professor at Harvard University. And they were starting to notice the erosion of some of the civil rights laws that had been accomplished during the movement during the 50s and 60s. And they began to study it more closely, and they had found that the law that structures our society has supported, now listen carefully, supported white supremacy. And what they discovered is that it was baked into the very writing of the Constitution, 3/5 of a person, on with the structuring of how this society would function. And that's the critical differences between the critical race theory and the 1619 Project.
Now, would the people east of Kansas City, we're talking about St. Louis, what is known and what has been taught to the second largest city in the state of Missouri? And please project your voice and state your name and the organization you represent. Mr. R. Folks, your turn.
Okay, what has been taught and projected? Well, in most cases, we can
Identify yourself, sir. Who are you with?
our folks, CEO of the Missouri Black Chamber of Commerce, and in the project, okay, there's been a lot of debate, like a better description, about the history that needs to be told. In our board education here in St. Louis, there's been less debate about the books and the history of the story that would be told. And right now, there's still much debate, and there's no decision that's been made about telling the actual history, what it is about English itself, and the things that took place here, and not only here, but around the country. So that's an issue that's being debated like most places, and need to be brought out. It hasn't been brought out properly yet.
Okay, also the co-host, attorney Nimrod Chapel, what has been taught or said in Jefferson City, our capital city?
I can tell you that I've been dismayed with the history or the lack thereof that's being taught currently. I've got two young children, one who's now 13, another 9. That puts them in 8th grade and 3rd grade. And so frequently, my wife and I, we review their textbooks and we look at their history lessons. And I can tell you, 2 years ago, one stands out in particular because there were 4 pages devoted to slavery, Jim Crow, and the civil rights era, including pictures. There was absolutely no real discussion of what slavery was, how that affected people, today's effects, so that there were laws that are still being fought today, and how that's being articulated in terms of their present existence. But at the same time, my then second grader was able to understand that when there was a change from, let me say this, to former President Trump and his version of leadership in America, that would have profound effects on us. So intuitively, I think that we know a lot. What we're getting out of those books in the classrooms, especially for our young people, is not enough.
Okay, any of our guests, how does this tie in with what we all have to go through in college, the birth of a nation?
Well, this is Archie Williams, and I'm not affiliated directly with any one particular organization. I'm just an independent author and a retired social worker. But the tie-in, repeat your question again so I can get accurate.
I was saying many of us in college I went to Park College, now Park University. I'm C. Richardson, the chairman, CEO, founder of the United Minority Media Association. I will repeat this again, that we'll be celebrating our 47th anniversary on a special broadcast this coming Saturday, which is August the 28th, as well as some people will get it on the Zoom, the others can get it on by going to Ferguson USA talkradio.com. It's also on YouTube and Facebook. What I was saying is, are you familiar with the special broadcast of the film, The Birth of the Nation, and how the mulattoes and how the Negro got involved in that? That was my question.
Okay, that was G.W. Griffith film that came out in 1915, is that correct?
That's correct.
Oh, gosh, that was a real turning point for race identity that time. The whole point of that movie was to glorify the Ku Klux Klan. And in doing so, that put down and kept down, slavery was over, to keep black folks in their place. And it was, reviewed in the White House by President Wilson at the time, and the Klan itself grew in great numbers at that particular time. And of course, we all know there was lynchings taking place all across the nation, not just in the South. But that would be the biggest takeaway that I can give on the impact on blacks and mulattoes.
And your name, sir?
I'm Archie Williams.
Okay. And you got a memoir, you got a book that's been published too, haven't you?
Yes, I have. It's called The Evolution of Africans in North America, The 3 Phases of Permanent Perpetual Slavery. And it's something that I self-published after doing some independent research, that some of the questions I had about our position in this country, especially after the riots of the acquittal of those 4 police officers who beat the mess out of Rodney King, and our reaction to that, and having gone through the civil rights movement and witnessing the riots during the 60s and so forth, I question why progress that we had made then seemed to no longer exist, and the treatment with the crack and what have you. Those are some of the questions that caused me to start to research a lot of who we are as a people, talking about black folks, and why our condition in this society is what it was. And the information that I found out really parallels what Professor Dr. Nicole Hannah Jones came up with the 1619 Project, except my book looks at it from a clinical perspective and how we have been impacted psychologically by going through the form of slavery, this peculiar form of slavery, I should say, that is inherent with the founding of this nation.
How might your writing your book be published if any of our listeners or their family would like to get a copy of it? How might they do that?
You can email me. I don't have, I'm not sophisticated in terms of using electronic methods, but my email address is Archie, ARCHIEW44 at gmail.com, and we can work out getting a book to you at that point. They're only $10, and we charge that so that I can continue to republish books. I have to say that the publishing company that I use, self-publishing company called Zilbrus, was extremely frustrating, and I would not go through them again, and I wouldn't advise anyone else to use them. because it was a very bad experience for me.
Okay, Attorney Nimrod, is he saying this correctly? What are your thoughts on this?
Well, I think that that's exactly right. I think that that's exactly right. That we've got when we think about Birth of a Nation and the impact that terrible piece had on us, I can't tell you enough that when we worry about our kids and grandkids, we are still going to feel the effects of that piece of literature. Propaganda is really what it was. A lot of the stereotypes and the tropes that we still see rehearsed in our own lives are just being propagated by that. And I hope that one day we'll be able to get past it. I mean, how do you provide an anecdote for a vile, racist piece of film? Education. So the book that we were just referencing, it would be a great way to know the truth and understand that's not accurate. But we've got to continue to try to put in society's eye references to what it is, the testaments to our humanity as black folks, as human beings, and as Americans.
Okay, one of our, and I hope all you will become Yuma members if you haven't already, but Mr. Alex Thomas has just called me, and he has a show, Talking with Alex Thomas, that is broadcast every Monday morning at 10 a.m. on KPRT. And so before the show closes, give away, because he might need to talk to you and have you call into his show. So if we would just give the information, it's at KPRS, and if I still know the number, but I'd rather for you to provide your information so we can get that correct broadcast in the name. I know the show is Talking with Alex Harris. Thomas, I'm talking about Alex Harris, and I get that reminded because I received a call from one of our person, Ron McMillan, that were the place that he stays, that should be named the Alexander Harris building. And then, okay, then we got Mr. Archie Williams talking about in Union Hill, what happened in Union Hill, how should we get involved in that, the name and that unmarked grave over there?
Okay, I think you're referencing Union Cemetery.
Yes, what did I say?
Yeah, you mentioned Hill, but that's okay.
Is it okay on Union Hill? Okay, but go ahead.
Yeah, the significance of the Union Cemetery that we were talking about, everyone has heard about the Exodusters. Am I correct?
I think we believe. I know Mr. Candy Price, who has talked about this on numerous occasions, but let you inform us from your background and what is so significant about this unmarked grave and this person.
All right, yes, the Exodusters was brought about by a gentleman named Benjamin Singleton. And after a while, he became affectionately called Pap. So you might find him as Benjamin Pap Singleton. That's P-A-P. He was a former slave in Tennessee, just where outside of Nashville, who had escaped off the plantation, made it to Canada, was there for a while, and came back in 62 after the Union occupied the area that he was at. Long story short, they had the former slaves, after slavery had ended, were under great repression and oppression there even after slavery. So Pap Singleton said, hey, we can never succeed being here under these conditions. So he researched land in Kansas and found out that there was a settlement act, the same act that they, used to take land in Oklahoma and so forth. Well, he used that same act to get land in Kansas. He led over 50,000 people out of Tennessee and established townships and settlements in Kansas around 1677 to 16, I'm saying 16, excuse me now, 1877 to 1879 or so. And those 50,000 folks are still, they have the singers over in Kansas even now as we speak. But Pat Singleton not only did that, he testified before Congress because they want to know, why is there such a great migration of African Americans leaving out of the South? Well, they lied. But anyway, he tried, Pat Singleton that is, trying to establish lending institutions, trade schools, other mechanisms just for the former slaves to pull our resources together to do for self is a term that we hear thrown around a lot, but he was one of the originators of doing for self. And he met, with great frustration from the broader establishment. Well, it was in 1885 that Pat Singleton settled in Kansas City, Missouri. His home was down in the West Bottom at 923 West 8th Street. And that's if you want to Google it, it's really 8th and Madison in the West Bottom. There's no marker there, but right across the street from his former home is a park dedicated to slavery in Kansas City, believe it or not. My point, though, getting back to Pat Singleton, is that he died in that house at 923 West 8th Street on February the 17th, 1900. Now, he was a widower, so he lived alone, and he was buried in Union Cemetery in a pauper's grave, still yet unmarked. Now, I've researched it, and I found, Union Cemetery is overseen by Kansas City Parks and Recreation, and they've been pretty helpful in helping us to locate where his grave site would be. So it's a mission of mine that we correct this injustice and give this man, Benjamin Pat Singleton, his proper due by pulling together, getting a memorial headstone and a ceremony that recognizes all the great contributions that he has done for African Americans. And he's resting right here in our midst, disgrace in that unmarked grave, and we should take the initiative to do something about it.
You mentioned that funds are needed and welcome. How might someone, if they're interested in making a donation, whatever, how can you be reached so they can make this reality of a tombstone, a headstone, and people knowing about all things that he contributed to this, they say, this great nation?
Well, yeah, I'm in the process of pulling together historical institutions. I've talked with Dr. Carmelita Williams over at the Black Archives, and we're going to sit down and talk some. I'm contacting the Historical Society of Kansas, where they have lots of information on Pat Singleton and the Exodusters. And I want to involve other educational museums and history institutions. I'm on the board of Bruce R. Watkins Cultural Heritage Center, and I'll leave it at that. But we're trying to pull together a a consortium of different institutions to spearhead this effort.
Well, for the benefit of our listener, what's the location of the Union Cemetery?
It is just south of Crown Center. If you take Grand and after you cross 27th Street, the street, there's a Y. And you take the street to the left, that would be Warwick. And you go about a half a block and you're at the entrance to Union Cemetery. And Of course, the grave being unmarked, there's no way I can give you an exact place to go and look for it, but it is on the southeastern edge of the cemetery.
Well, for the benefit of the people who are just listening, or Mr. Scott Owen, how might they text that question or that concern? I know it's the YouTube and it's also the Facebook, but how can they text that where you guys can pick that information that they're seeking?
You mean concerning getting a memorial headstone?
Well, that and more information.
Well, again, they can.
Well, that's part of the problem is that there's not any collective information. You can Google Benjamin Singleton, and his bio will come up and background information on him. But the Union Cemetery, which is also, like I mentioned, under the auspices of Kansas City Parks and Recreation, you should be able to contact Union Cemetery and inquire about the grave site of Benjamin Pat Singleton.
How might that be done?
By contacting...
right, how can they be contacted? What's the information? No Park and Recreation.
Yeah, you look up Kansas City, Missouri.gov, I believe, and then go to departments and you'll find Kansas City Parks and Rec and inquire with them directly.
Well, that's 816-513-7500. They can call that number and probably find out from the people there how this will proceed, perceive that information, and how might the people get involved and do something to make that, just like we got Mr. Gibson is not on the show with us, but it's just like what they did for Charlie Parker, where they got him buried, but however, it's at the Howland Cemetery or Lincoln Cemetery. It's not that very well kept.
Yeah, it's Lincoln.
Yeah.
And I might add,
State your name.
Brother Ron McMillan is out here in Valley Park. I might add that I would like to join Archie Williams in this effort too. I think we will contact editor of the Call newspaper and get a refresh on that history and see if we can get a story and what history we do have of that published, so that folks in this, especially in the local area, know about this travesty, so that we can organize a proper way to recognize what this man did, and so that he could have a proper honors bestowed upon him. And we should know, especially us living right around here, should know that story, and it should be published.
Okay,
Archie,
go ahead.
I join you. You got my allegiance. We'll see what we can do to publicize the actual story and maybe organize a committee of folk to do the proper publishing to that truth.
Well, you
are
mentioned...
in a
Go ahead.
period of truth where a lot of truth is... It's a real crystal period. A jubilee of truth is beginning to hit this whole nation as they propose to us to continue, even Tulsa. The big lies, the lies that have went on for years, have had their period, and it's being busted. And it's going to be up to us, historians, researchers, to take the ball and run with it. Because we all are connected, just like we're talking right now, and the internet and the computer can help us pull together the network we need for information. We need to make the network of truth, because we have some incredible African Americans that have sustained 401 years from August 20th, 1619, and the truth that must be told. It's time to be told, and it's upon us, so our children. You see who's reacting to 1619? McConnell, Trump, white racists who lived off of that. And time has come for us to correct. It's our duty. stand tall. There's a lot of research that got to be done, but we can do that work now. And Nicole Anna Johnson, I'm in love. I've never seen it more. No, I swear to God, when she talks, she speaks. She's on a lot of interviews. She's a Pulitzer winner. She's a genius winner. She's all their credentials. Right. You hear me? And all the credentials that they bestowed, she got them. And then they want to act funny with her. So it's a rallying cry to us to back up and join the information that must come forward. The truth shall set us free, really. Yeah. And we are the children of God. Got to get off their dusty musties and do work.
That's right. That's right.
Big work we need to do, and we stop messing around. I don't want I'm 73. Mm-hmm. I don't know long because I'm not living for me. I'm living for my grandbabies. And I got a couple grandbabies in Raleigh, and I'm living for them because they're going to have to take this. But I want to give them all that they need to get righteousness and justice. And we have got, they can't stop us from reading anymore. Did you know that?
No, I know.
They can't punish us. They can't punish us for seeking truth. And so we have to do our thing.
You know, and, you couldn't be more right. Let me amplify that just for a second. Because here's what I see. In Missouri now, we talked earlier about, conflating 1619 and critical race theory. There's a movement in the Missouri legislature where they just had a hearing, and they're getting ready to have another one on Monday the 23rd. Now, the first one, they wouldn't let any African Americans testify. Wouldn't let anybody who would actually tell the truth about CRT testify. And they went in there and they talked bad about CRT, about acknowledging that racism is systemic in the United States, saying that children couldn't be taught this because they would be radicalized, would no longer believe their parents. And I find that interesting. I'd love to get both of your perspectives. What would be the best way to get the public engaged on this topic so that we don't have censorship of history and that we allow for the next generation to understand the importance of how we have come up and why we are in this position that we're currently in?
One of the things I would put on the table is Frederick Douglass' 1852 speech. What is your Independence Day to slavery, to the people who were enslaved? He gave a speech in Rochester, New York. And I tell every B1 black person, pull that up. We all ought to read it. You can't be more dynamic and more in their face than he ever was when he broke it down. The pageantry, the phoniness. It's not us, 1852, not us day of independence. It was their day. And they made a thing out of it that was part. Now we're seeing big lies. Big lie has to be killed. That's our job. That's our job. We're going to get off our we got it. The big lie has to be killed so that America can live. And America that God intended. Not that these devils, not that these racists, not that these killers wanted to have, but what did God have for people who wanted freedom, justice, equality, all those powerful words? What did God have in mind? And it's our duty to get off our rusties and make it a reality. And if they try to block us, we know who they are. They showed us who they are January 6th. And they can't tell us we did not see what we saw. So we don't need any better message than that. And we need to get busy. And it needs to happen almost in every state in this union. We're tired of the lies and the truth, like Grandma said.
Well, you mentioned the call and probably Eric Wilson, and also that's 816-842-3804. But I would suggest not only dealing with humor on that, but and the black journalist, I would suggest that you get in contact with the Convention Bureau, and I believe that's 816-221-52. See, that was it. 821-5242, and get the communication department to get a copy, or you can look it up on the web, of all the media names they have. And I would ask the people to start writing letters to the editor. Somebody everybody's going to be interested in doing something. We got the Call, we got the Globe, we got the U.S. Dispatch and Publishing Kansas, but all the time, letter to the editor, and also the different media outlets, the radio station, the TV station. They have the person, and they do the editorials. They get the people involved that you mean business, and it's just like a lot of time we let things just go to the wayside, and we said, well, we should have done. Here's the opportunity to do it. That's why I know we're running out of time, but on the same token, that's why shows like this, Guess Who's Coming to Kansas City, and we have our trademark so that people can't just jump up and say they Guess Who's Coming to Kansas City. But our listeners, and you should get involved with the United Minority Media Association, whereas I'll publicize this again, we're going to be celebrating our 47th year. That's next Saturday, August the 28th. We were incorporated in the state of Missouri. We were 501c3 in 1974. And the people can listen to this program if we don't have the email address. It also will be on Ferguson USA Hot Talk Radio and .com, and also it'll be on the YouTube, and it'll be on the Facebook, and like any and every show that we have, and thanks to Ferguson that we always run out of time, so let's allow the different people who are interested in how you can be contacted on everything we talked about today.
Okay, Archie Williams, you can reach me by calling 816-536-4096 or my email address, archiw44@gmail.com.
Don't everybody holler at once. Go ahead and speak.
Well, Ira folks in Missouri Black Chamber of Commerce, you can also get a hold of me through MC Richardson also.
Ron McMillan, we're not going to go back to New York to tell people how to reach you.
Nimrod Chapel with the Missouri State Conference of the NAACP. The best numbers for me are 816-309-5009, or you can do Nimrod, Nimrod, Chapel, CHAPEL, JR@gmail.com. Thank you for another great program.
Yes, this is great.
How can you be reached, Mr. Ron McMillan, after they ran you out of New York? I know he's not lost for words. And I know you're still with us, Ron. Did you bow out? Well, we can continue. It's just like next week, we're doing something like they spoke of the Greenwood District in Tulsa, Oklahoma, but also Ketcher, Arkansas. The same thing happened, and a few of us are working on a special project about Ketcher that happened in 1923. And they're working on that. People working on the PhD, probably some books come out, and we know about Black Wall Street, Tulsa, and the Greenwood District. Somebody else has some comments or something they would like to get out before we have to go off?
This is Archie. I just want us to remember we have a great opportunity now with the critical race theory and the 1619 project to rechange or reshape the history of us, of this country, change the narrative, and to remember that the critical race theory deals with white supremacy, knowing that it does exist, it maintains power through the law, and transforming the relationship between law and racial power is its main focus, which is different from the 1619 project, which talks about the changing the narrative of slavery and teaching correct history. And we understand that the powers to the right or the powers that be is trying to confuse the two in order to discredit it. and they're doing it for a reason, and we understand what that reason is. But as we are unified and being clear on understanding the differences between the two, yet promoting them both because they're vital for our children's future. Thank you.
You know, often I'll say make comments, and a lot of people don't know how to take me. I think I've been here long enough to talk. I said I've told other people that they got ran out of whatever city, but we were happy that Ron McMillan came here, and he has a project going. And normally they put down the guns and things like that. What is that project, and what do you need assistance in, Mr. Ron McMillan? Ron, are you still with us? Okay, well, who's on the line with us?
Well, this is Nimrod. Yeah, and Nimrod's here. Yep, I can only echo the same sentiments.
Also.
Well, I know Ron's project is stopping the homicides that has taken over our city. So to do whatever we can to stop, I know he says, stop brother, don't shoot, been one of his slogans, to communicate to us, let's not shoot and kill one another.
I know also he has some face masks that he wants to have that printed. And Ron's number is 816-363, what's that, 9212, I believe. And can you see if you can reach him the last couple minutes, Mr. Folks? You had his number earlier.
No, Ron is still here.
You say what now?
Ron is still here.
Okay, well, Ron, can you talk? Well, you said he's still here, but I'm from Missouri, the show me state.
Well, he's in the party, and that's what.
Oh, that's right. He's down there. Okay. That's why I'm quite sure, as vocal as he is, he would have said something. But in the meantime, we got another couple of minutes after the show celebrating 47 years as an organization. We serve 27 states in the Midwest Southeast region, but not limited to. And we'll have that broadcast next Saturday from 3 p.m. to 4:30. And if we don't have your email address to provide you an agenda, we will talk about everything on that show. And after that show, that's from 3 o'clock to 4:30. Our regular show will be talking with Miss Cheyenne Hubbard and myself, and people from the Salas family and the Wells family that'll come on from 5 to 6. And just like each and every Saturday, we have broadcasts. An hour you have a broadcast from 1 to 3. And what's the name of that? And what happened today on your show? Even though we've about our time, but tell the people anyway.
Well, our show comes on from this lunch, which is Missouri Chamber Conference. We come on from 1 to 3. Most of all, next week, okay, we have a better show on the race theory also. That's next Saturday from 1 to 3. But also this week we talked about mental black history and with mental health and how black history is being affected about all, especially in the families, especially what's going on with COVID-19, things such as this, that mental health is being affected more so than ever, and lack of in the black community.
Okay, if you want to reach the United Minority Media Association, 816-822-8866, and the mobile number is 816-694-2273. On both of them, leave a message so we can contact you. This has been a tremendous show today, as well as getting the people who haven't been cognizant of 1619 Project. And like they say, we have racism and lynchings, rapes and whatever, not only in Ketcher, Arkansas, not only in Tulsa, Oklahoma, the 100-year celebration, where they had the wealth, along with Raleigh, North Carolina, and Chicago, Illinois, and nobody has been prosecuted in any of those situations. It's just like they talked about Elaine, Arkansas, but the name now is the Helena, Arkansas, where 200 black World War I veteran that was sharecroppers, and they wanted to get 75%, and the Klan murdered them, as nothing has ever been done about that. We got to wake up, like Mr. Williams said, and Mr. Ron McMillan, and he was saying, like a lot of people use another word, stop sitting back on your turrety and get involved.
That's right. That's right.
And you are correct.
If you haven't had a chance to listen to the podcast, the 1619 Project, the New York Times has it at their website. It's free. You can get at it through the Apple Podcast, or you can do it through those folks who use Android. It's completely free. Great opportunity and a great read. So.
And also, guess who's coming to Kansas City? Also on the Apple Project, thanks to Mr. Scott Owen and Mr. Our folks, that they are making it possible